Well, thank you guys for joining us, and it's always great to have you here with us. I'm Marc Silber, photographer, educator, author, and the show today is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. Now, what we're going to be continuing with is getting your work out to the world. So last time I was talking about visualizing yourself as a photographer and as an artist. I hope you've done that exercise. Listen, guys, this isn't about just thinking stuff. You got to do the work. It's the same thing with my books. You know, I want you guys to do the work in Create. Like at the end of every chapter, there's stuff you got to do. That's how you can't just read a book about cooking and not go into the kitchen and cook, or a book about sports and not actually do the sport. This is the same thing. So make sure you do this exercise that I gave you, which is visualizing yourself, your brand. Try to narrow down your genre to really one thing. Now, having done that, let's talk about now, how are you going to get your work out to the world? And there's a big false belief out there, which is many people believe their photos aren't good enough to share. And the secondary false belief, and that's something I want you to I want to get rid of that. You can put your work out to the world. Start with the AYP Club. It's a very safe environment. Test the water, see how it feels, because I know it can be scary and you're vulnerable. You're putting something out there. I just recently went through this because I'm making a series of reels and short videos in Instagram. And, you know, it's always a little scary to see how's this stuff going to be received. Are people going to go, Mark, don't do that. We don't like that. You know, stay in your lane or whatever. And I was happy to see, you know, it resonated. And by the way, you guys need to follow me on Instagram so you don't miss those, because I'm going to be putting them up very regularly. And you are vulnerable when you put your work out. I don't care whether it's a single photograph, a blog post, posting on social media, writing a book. You don't know until you put it out there what's going to happen. And it's, you know, it's always an interesting journey to see what resonates for people. But you do not hang on to this idea that your work isn't good enough. I believe in you. So you've got one believer right here. I'm not kidding. I believe in you. And I want you to believe in yourself. That's really, really important. The secondary thing is the only way to get your work out is to put it on social media. That's like being a cook and you're only cooking fast food. You know, you're cooking eggs, hash browns, and bacon. That's your whole repertoire. No. You got a lot of other ways to share, and let's go over some of those right now. But I can't overstress the importance of getting your work out of your phone, out of your computer, out of a shoebox or wherever it might be stored, and out to the world. I've been beating the drum on this for 14 years. Really, I think I first, maybe longer than that, I wrote an article in a local paper. And one of the things I wrote about is you got to share, get your stuff out of the shoebox and into the world. And that was actually written around 2006. So that's a long time ago. You're at the final stage of the cycle of photography, which is sharing your work. And I do mean sharing in the broad sense, which can include social media, selling your photographs like I'm doing now. These were printed by Bay Photo with the mats already in place. These are mini versions of much larger ones that will go on the wall. So somebody could grab one of these, take it home and frame it. But also the big versions are going to be sold framed so that they're accessible in different ways. But selling your work is really satisfying. Being part of an exhibit, being printed in magazines and books, there's a lot of ways to get your work out to the world, and it's really important. Now, one of the things I recommend is that you put and this is actually a recommendation that came from Chase Jarvis, put a portfolio together of your top 10 best photographs. and put them in a portfolio case like this. So that when you go somewhere, like you go to a place a gallery, let's say, and I've done this, you want to show your work, don't send them an online link, show them the actual physical photographs. And a handy way to do that is to put them in this portfolio case and let the curator look through it. Why 10? You could put more. But the thing is, you want to really stick with your 10 best photographs. Now, that should be changing. As you get better, swap out. And you go, this one isn't as good as I thought it was anymore. Take it out, put the new top 10 in there, and just keep elevating your top 10 all the time. And this little handy tool will really open some doors for you, because one thing you can do is get out there. Think of a place that should be showing your work and go there and show them an example. Like I did this early on when I was relaunching my career. I went to galleries, I went to stores, and mostly I was met favorably. Not everybody's going to accept your work, but it's actually really good to get out there and show them and see what resonates. Now, let me give you a tip. When people are looking at your work, don't talk. Don't chatter. There's a temptation. You're nervous. What are they thinking? And you're going to fill that in with a lot of chatter. You're distracting them from your real communication, which is your work. Your photographs are a form of communication. Let them look. If they have a question, of course, answer it, but don't say anything. Zip your mouth. That viewer, and this goes for when people are looking at your work on the wall, don't go interrupt them and go, that was taken in, 1926 with my Hasselblad or whatever. They're not asking you that question. And one thing I also noticed, when somebody looks at a photograph, they're getting their own vision. It's like in their world, they're getting that photograph. Like this photograph of the blue door. And they may think, wow, that's in Greece. How amazing to find that door in Greece. But I go, actually, no, that was in Mazatlan, above Mazatlan in Mexico. Why change their illusion? They're not asking for that. Now, if somebody says, well, Mark, where was that door taken? I'll tell them. But otherwise, let them have their own moment with it. And that goes back to showing your work in your portfolio. Let the curator go through there. If they'll have questions, great. But let them have their moment. That's really important. And that's true, you'll find throughout your career. Let people experience that moment with you, that communication that you've given them. It's very important. It's very special. You don't want to bust into it. Okay. And I've made that mistake. And I've actually seen the expression on their face change from one of sort of pleasure to one of like, oh, I guess I didn't have that right. You're kind of giving them a little bit of a lose on it. I learned not to do that. Okay. So there's prints that you can make. This is a big version of the one I just showed you a moment ago. This is actually custom framed, and it's hanging on one of our walls here. Remember, your home, your apartment, your office space can be your best gallery. So make sure when you walk into my house, there's one photograph that is not mine from a famous artist. The rest of them are all mine. So people walk through the house, they're getting a look at my work. They're getting an exhibit. And I do tell them stories because they usually ask, where is that, Mark? And so I'll tell them the story behind it. But use your space. If you live in a room that's 12 by 12, you've got a lot of wall space. I mean, I'm looking at my office, which isn't even 12 by 12. There's a lot of wall space. Use it, but don't clutter it up. Do not make, and I don't like this, where I see a wall with 3 layers of photographs on it. It's too cluttery. Let each one stand on its own. Let each one have its own space so that as you're walking around, it's like highlighting that one photograph. Let it breathe. Don't squish them together. Let them each have their own space. That's actually an important tip, because I've never been a fan of looking at a wall with, I mean, it's one thing if it's a family, okay, a family group of portraits, that's fine. But I'm talking about your fine artwork. Let each one exist in its own space. It's very important. So get your prints made. Use Bay Photo Lab. They're excellent. You can get them. You see how this is a double matte? This was not made by Bay Photo Lab. This is a custom framer that I use. And he's brilliant because he found a frame to match the photograph, and he does a great job at that. Generally, I frame my prints in a black frame. I'm usually very traditional about it, but on occasion, I have done some custom framing. But I do really like double matting. I just feel like it adds that layer. It's a frame. You've got a frame within a frame. You've got the frame of the print. You've got a matte outer layer, inner layer, then you've got your print. And it just helps dress things up. It's like wearing a tie and a jacket. It just dresses it up. You can order those when you're on Bay Photo. You can specify double matte, single matte. I don't recommend, honestly, anything other than a white matte. That's just me. I wouldn't even use off-white. I just use a pure white. I just feel like that's the best way to show off your work. And then with Bay Photo Lab, you can choose a number of different frames. I, again, just use black as my go-to. So get some made, put them on your wall if you haven't already done that. Don't tack up photographs without a frame. You could put them on a mat, but they're going to get dirty and messed up. So put them in a frame. That's really important. And it helps present your work. In cooking, there's this whole art of plating your food. What if you took this beautiful meal you just made, chicken cordon bleu, and you just sort of slopped it on a plate? It wouldn't taste as good. It would not taste as good. The plating actually helps you have this whole vision, and it actually adds to the taste. There's something about it. Creativity improves everything. Just remember that. Okay, you can also make cards. This was a card for one of my exhibits, My Mexico 1969, which is when I went to Mexico as a high school student. You can make cards and use them for your business. Rachel, actually, I happen to have hers right here. Good job, Rachel. So she sends these out, I think once a month. This is a postcard. Very smart, reminding people that she's there and the types of work she does. She has a QR code on there. Very, very smart, Rachel. If you're watching this, this is the way to get yourself noticed. A postcard with one of your photographs, and then on the back, who you are, what you offer. Mail that out to your clients. Not very expensive, but very effective. Notice I didn't throw this away. It's sitting here. Okay? Go to it. Okay, so those are some ideas, additional ideas for getting your work out to the world. Of course, creating books. I am creating a new book soon. I've actually got one that is almost done. I need to wrap it up. But, my books all have my photographs in them. But I'm making fine art and story books about some of my adventures, because I've been on a lot of adventures, and I'm going to just highlight those. You can get them made at Bay Photo Lab also. They'll make books for you. Boom. You should have an online gallery. I use SmugMug. I really like SmugMug. I've been using SmugMug since 2008 or so, maybe 7. I was an early adopter. I actually did some workshops for them. I really like these guys. Their product is excellent. And the cool thing about it, and you see I've got more than 10 here, and you can certainly have more than 10 on your online gallery. But what I wouldn't do is page after page after page, narrow it down. I need to actually go through this and narrow it down again. But the great thing about these is you can click on them. It opens up each individual print or photograph, and then you can click on buy this photograph, and that goes to my Bay Photo account. So they actually place the order right there. It gets ordered through Bay Photo Lab, and it can get shipped to them directly. How cool is that? The other thing you can do with your SmugMug, and I really wish I'd done this years ago, you don't need to have 2 websites. It's what I have. I have my content and all that stuff on one website. Then I have Bay Photo Lab, or pardon me, and I have SmugMug where I have my photographs. You can actually do it all on SmugMug. Keep it easy and simple for yourself. But I really, really recommend, I think we have a discount link somewhere. If we don't, we should post that. I'll make sure we get that up there, because we have a discount from them. So you should have an online gallery also where people can find, like, let's say when they buy one of my prints, at the bottom of my artist statement, I'm adding a QR code. I do have the website, the URL here, but the QR code, you know how those work. You just scan it with your phone and it opens it right up, as Rachel did. So that's a really good idea, because you want to get your work out to the world. You want to have people know where they can get more of your work. That's super important. Don't forget that. And don't forget that you're always marketing. You are, unless you get so big that somebody else markets for you, you are your own chief marketing officer, your own CMO. And don't ever feel like there's anything wrong with self-promotion. You're not really, in fact, self-promoting. You're wearing a different hat. You're promoting for, like I'm promoting for the photographer known as Marc Silber, and I happen to be his CMO. It's just a different hat. So I want you guys to look at these ways of getting your work out to the world. Again, you can test things out in the AYP Club. That can be your laboratory for experimentation. But just do the things I've talked about, okay? It's really important. Start with getting prints on your own wall, making your own museum, your own gallery. Start there and just keep rolling out from there. One thing you can always do is look around in your community for places where you can show your work. Maybe a school that you went to. They always love to hear from their alumni. And you can pitch them on the idea of doing an exhibit. You maybe have a local coffee house. You can put it on their wall. Maybe there's a gallery that you could get your work into. I've done all these things, and it's fun. It's a thrill, actually. So it's in my book. I actually have in both Create and Advancing Your Photography, pretty thorough checklist for how to do that. So make sure you guys are following that advice. Okay, so that's it. We've completed the full cycle photography for now. I'm going to be next talking to you guys more about creativity itself. We're going to kind of hone in on that subject. So I'd like you guys to make sure you join me, and also follow me on Instagram, because I'm putting a lot of that material right there. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Okay. And leave your comments, share the video. That would be awesome. And last but not least, say it with me. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. Take care. See you guys soon.